so we start off, we get a little bit more independent. We think I can do this myself. I'm just going to put my hope in me. Everybody else and everything else seems to disappoint me. And then the next stage of it is that we become more indignant. Just this general sense of anger and frustration with life. It just doesn't seem fair. And we start to have this bitterness. Doesn't feel like we are ever going to be able to make things right or make things happen the way we want to. And we just get tired of trying, and so we find ourselves just becoming more angry. And maybe you wouldn't say that, but maybe some of the people around you would say that. Like, that's just more who you are these days. Just kind of angry. And then I think maybe the last step in this regression is what I would call indifference, where you just decide, whatever. Life is one big disappointment, and you just scroll your way through the holidays, or you self-medicate so you don't have to think about it. You just go from one day to the next in this constant state of disappointment where you've kind of given up on hope. And so the question then becomes, is there a hope that won't let us down? Is there a hope that we can hold on to when things around us seem so uncertain? Tammy Kramer was the chief of an outpatient AIDS clinic in the 90s in Los Angeles County. She's a follower of Jesus, and she tells about this day where a patient came into the clinic for his, at that time, a weekly dose of medication. And he sat on the stool in this clinic, and he waited in tired silence for the doctor to come in. And the doctor that came in that day was a new doctor, had not been into the clinic before. Doesn't really have any conversation with the patient. He just has this little clipboard out and going through a few things, gives him the medication. And then before leaving, he says, without looking at the patient, he just says, "You're aware, aren't you, that you're not long for this world? You've got a year at most." And he turned and he walked out. And Tammy had sat at her desk and listened to this conversation take place. And as the patient walked out that day, she could see the pain in his face. Through clenched teeth, the patient said of the doctor, "That blankety blank he took my hope away." And Tammy Kramer said, maybe he did. Maybe it's time to find another hope. And that really is the question. Is there one? Is there another hope? Honestly, is there a hope that won't let you down? Is there a hope you can really lean on? It just seems to me that so much of the anxiety we have in our culture, so much of this underlying anger that we seem to be experiencing is related to being on a foundation that just is not secure. Just this insecurity of putting our weight on things, and then it collapses, and we try something else and it collapses, and after a while we're just tired of it. We get angry, we get discouraged, we get frustrated. So is there another hope? Because the Bible says in Romans that there is another hope, and his name is Jesus. That Jesus is the one hope that doesn't disappoint. And that's what we celebrate at Christmas. When Isaiah is talking to us about the birth of Jesus, he speaks about the birth of Jesus with great hope, and he writes these words like 700 years before Jesus was born. He's making these prophecies about how Jesus will be born and where he will be born and what that will be like. But in Isaiah 9 verse 2, he describes it this way. He says, "In the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. Hope is born." We've been looking at some of these prophecies in Isaiah that are just incredibly precise that Jesus fulfills. I think Isaiah, even as he wrote these words about the Messiah, he understood how hard they would be for people to believe. You get to Isaiah 53 and he acknowledges this. It's not just that it's hard to believe that God would come to earth, but how he would come to earth, just not at all how we would think it should or would happen. And so Isaiah says in verse 1, who's going to believe this? Who has believed our message? To whom has the Lord revealed his powerful arm? The Message paraphrases it. Who believes what we have heard and seen? Who would have thought God's saving power would look like this? Because this is a strange way to save the world.